It is not okay for you to talk negatively about yourself, either out loud or in your head. Doing that is never going to result in you being a better person. It's not going to result in the improvement of your life. It's not going to result in people around you changing, which, by the way, you can't do. You can't change other people, in case you haven't heard the news. When you talk about negative things that happen to you over and over again, there's no solution orientation to that. You're not trying to get to the root of the matter and resolve it. You're just playing the negative thing over and over again. That would be like watching a violent scene in a movie and then rewinding it over and over and over again. It produces the same kind of result as gossiping about yourself does. Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole: Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery, where I help people heal their emotional, psychological, and spiritual wounds and make deep, lasting changes in their lives. I'm the founder and CEO of Higher Power Coaching and Consulting, LLC, where I coach people on how to develop healthy boundaries. On this podcast, I share my experience, strength, and hope from recovery. I don't support or endorse any particular 12-step recovery fellowship, and I don't claim to speak for any particular 12-step fellowship. I also don't believe that 12-step recovery is the only way to recover. You might need additional help. My hope is that you'll find my words concretely helpful in improving your life, whether you're in recovery or not. This is episode 183, Stop Gossiping About Yourself. Usually, we think about gossiping as something we do about other people, but I realize that some of the behavior I've engaged in the past might be considered gossiping about myself. And when I think about it this way, it's a lot easier to stop, especially since I learned to stop gossiping about other people and about how poisonous gossip is, both to me and the other people around me. So here's the kind of thing I think of as gossiping about myself. When something bad happens to me and I talk about it over and over and over again, I am spreading negativity, possibly also spreading chaos, and possibly triggering myself over and over and over again. So there's no good coming from doing this. Now, this doesn't mean I don't ever talk about negative things that happen to me, but if I'm talking about it to just talk about it, that's gossip. If I'm talking about it with another person because something negative happened with me and I'm trying to process it so that I can come to some kind of resolution and deal with my feelings about it so I can get past it, that's one thing. But that is not what gossip is. Gossip is when you talk about something over and over again and you're not trying to come to some kind of resolution. There's no solution orientation when you're gossiping. Another way to think about gossiping about yourself is when you say negative things about yourself. So if I say things like, I'm no good, or I'm never going to amount to anything, or nobody wants to hear what I have to say, that could be considered gossiping about myself, even if it's only in my head. But when I'm saying things like that out loud to other people, that is absolutely gossiping about myself. If I say things like, nobody cares what I think, or you don't want to know what I think, or I should have never said anything anyway, or you guys really don't want me around anyway, that is me gossiping about myself. And I want you to think about it this way, to bring attention to how egregious this behavior is. It is not okay for you to talk negatively about yourself, either out loud or in your head. Doing that is never going to result in you being a better person. It's not going to result in the improvement of your life. It's not going to result in people around you changing, which, by the way, you can't do. You can't change other people, in case you haven't heard the news. When you talk about negative things that happen to you over and over again, there's no solution orientation to that. You're not trying to get to the root of the matter and resolve it. You're just playing the negative thing over and over again. That would be like watching a violent scene in a movie and then rewinding it over and over and over again. It produces the same kind of result as gossiping about yourself does. Now, the way I came up with this concept was when I would tell people the process of how I learned to stop gossiping, which I talked about in one of my first episodes. I will link it in the show notes. It's number 12. It's called Stop Gossiping. When I stopped gossiping, especially about my boss at the time, my resentment about her went way down. And that taught me to stop what I call dragging the story with me. I ended up doing a whole nother episode on what it means to drag the story with you and how to stop. I will also link that in the show notes. It's number 111. When I talk about these things with people, what I've said is, it's almost like I was gossiping about myself. And then I realized, you know what? That is a really good way to frame that, because when you talk about what you're doing to your own self as gossip, it's a lot easier to see it as something really fucked up. It's not fruitful, and it's something that needs to stop. Now, let me give you some examples of gossiping about something that happened to me. I had a situation with somebody that I worked with who blamed me for the organization's lack of communication. I heard him out and I said, all those things are true. And then I said my piece. And we resolved the situation as much as it could be in that moment. Now, if this was the past and I was continuing to gossip about myself the way I used to, I would have talked about that in detail with pretty much everybody. Everybody that I saw, I would have just talked about it over and over again, like for the next 3 or 4 days after it happened. And I wouldn't have done it as a way to be like, I'm right, they're wrong. Look at what a victim I am. Look at what I have to put up with. Can you believe this shit? Can you believe this asshole? I would have named names, and I probably would have dragged some other things this person previously did into the story. And meanwhile, the conversation happened once. But in the past, even if there was a resolution like there was in this situation, I would have gossiped about myself, which means I wouldn't have been able to let things go and move past them. I wouldn't have felt like there was a resolution if I had kept talking about it, even if I acted like it with the person. And then I would have carried a resentment against this person and felt super justified in doing it. One of the ways I think about it is I probably would have been metaphorically lobbing bombs at that person or about that person in that work environment and justified that it was okay to do that because, I'm talking about me and something that happened to me. So that is what I mean when I say gossiping about yourself. Don't do it. It only has ill effects. I was recently reminded by a friend that when I first started recovery, I didn't feel lovable. I almost can't believe that I used to feel that way and that I kind of forgot something so profound because I truly love myself now. And I want that for everybody. If you don't love yourself, there's literally nothing that can make up for that. I created something exclusively for my private clients since many of them don't love themselves. And I've now opened up my private vault to share it with up to 10 people individually. It's called the Self-Love Sprint. You'll grow to love yourself and truly feel worthy so you can stop saying yes when you really want to say no. Stop neglecting yourself and putting everyone else first. Stop saying all kinds of nasty shit to yourself. That is not what people who love themselves and feel deserving do. You'll stop being afraid that others will think that you're selfish for taking time to care for yourself. This is also for you if you don't really know who you are because you've always been such a fucking chameleon. Go to higherpowercc.com/lovesprint. Remember, I'm only offering 10 of these, so don't wait. If you like this podcast, and I'm guessing you did or you wouldn't still be listening, then you're gonna love the other things I have to offer. If you'd love pre-release podcast scripts and episodes before anyone else gets them, or if you'd love access to content from my private vault that I developed exclusively for my private clients, which is like having a work session with me without me actually being there, go to patreon.com/higherpowercoaching. There are 3 tiers ranging from as low as $4 up to $24 a month. You'll also love my weekly newsletter, Friday Fragments, which has content very similar to the podcast. You can check it out at fridayfragments.news. That's fridayfragments.news. Please like and subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast outlet. I'd also love it if you'd leave a review, which you can do either in the show notes or on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other people find my podcast so they can get the benefits you've gotten from listening. If someone came to mind when you listened to this particular episode, please share it with them. And my favorite place to hang out on social media is Instagram. I'm at Higher Power Coaching. Please DM me there. I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. I run group and private coaching programs on building healthy boundaries. Whether you need help with boundaries in your personal, professional, or romantic life, I can help. Head on over to barbchat.net, where you can hop onto my calendar for a free 30-minute Better Boundaries consultation. My ideal client is someone who is ripe for change. If that's you, I would love to work with you. My goal with all my work is to help you make lasting changes in your life like I've made deep, lasting changes in my life. Remember, it's never too late to recover. No one is beyond hope, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening.